you're listening or watching to In the Den, the insight on Swinton Lions Rugby League Club. Delighted today to have Steve Wild with us, the Chief Executive of the club. Steve, in part one, you were talking about how you got involved with the club. An interesting story, both ups and downs along the way. This year, you got elected or got invited to be the RFL Vice President. That's a huge honour, isn't it?
It was an incredible honour and really humbling. It is very much an honorary role. I think anybody who's asked me to, change direction of the RFL, I don't have. I'm not going to be able to do that. But when I first got the phone call from Tony Sutton, the RFL chief exec, I need to be honest. When I saw Tony's number come up on my phone, my first reaction was, "Oh no, what have we done now?" Because normally there's something afoot if the RFL chief exec rings you. But once in fact, he had to check that I was still on the end of the phone because I think I went into stunned silence. It is an incredible honour. I'm appreciative that I was only offered it, I think, based on the longevity of my service on the Rugby League Council. But nevertheless, it was a huge personal honour. But I also like to think that it reflects well on the club as a whole. I think we've got a really good relationship with the Rugby League. I think we're well respected in the game. I'd like to think that my personal input, and along with others, of course, to cultivate that relationship and give us a respectful standing in the game has been acknowledged. Yeah. But yeah, fantastic honour. But I feel embarrassed talking about it if I'm being brutally honest. But I do regard it as a huge honour.
And you need to enjoy the 2 years. Now, what some of our listeners or people who are watching this might not realise is that you are a big collector of Rugby League memorabilia. How did you get into that, and what motivated you?
Yeah, I've been collecting Swinton-based memorabilia probably since about the late 80s, something like that. And I think it started out by just keeping a programme from each game that I'd gone to. And particularly if you've been to an away game, it was a nice souvenir of the away game. So I think I got to a point in around about 1990, I was flicking through my programmes. I thought, well, there's probably only about 4 or 5 missing here from the last 8 years. I'll see if I can get hold of those.
Right.
And then I thought, so I did that, and I thought, well, why not go back to the year I was born?
Yeah.
So I started collecting pros. I know the bits and pieces started turning up. I started accumulating all season tickets and photographs and you name it. And before I knew it, if it had a Swinton badge on it, I was collecting it.
Yeah.
And I used to scour. Scouring eBay now is probably what I do in modern times. But back in the day, it was flea markets.
Yeah.
Looking at the small ads in newspapers, advertising. At one point, I was even running a small collector's catalogue myself, which created a volume to do swaps.
Yes.
I've had something from other clubs, built up a good network of contacts of collectors at other clubs, and it just escalated, and to the point now where I've got every Swinton programme home and away, bar about 30 something since 1945.
Wow.
Probably about 300 pre-war programmes, which is probably unheard of really in the collecting world. I've got medals, caps, cigarette cards, all season tickets, photographs coming out my ears. Probably about 8,000 individual items.
What's your favourite item?
I would say probably the most famous Swinton player of all time is a guy called Jim Valentine. The fact that he's been dead for 120 years might tell you something about the club itself. That our most famous player has been dead 120 years. But Jim Valentine was a Victorian superstar that transcended the class conflicts of the day. He came from a very, very poor upbringing to play for England at rugby union when the rugby union was ruled by class
Yeah.
snobbery, really.
Yeah.
I think it's probably a polite way of putting it.
Yeah.
But he transcended all of that to play for England. He played 60 odd times for Lancashire. He's still our record try scorer by more than 100,
Right.
even to this day. When Swinton joined the Northern Union in 1896, 4 years later we got to the Challenge Cup final. Jim Valentine captained that team, and we beat Salford in the final of the Challenge Cup. And I've got his winners' medal from that game.
How did you get that?
So that's by far my most valued item, I think. Again, it was a convoluted route. It was a chap from Yorkshire that contacted me personally, that somebody had dealt with previously, and he said he'd spotted it in a sports auction in Nottingham, of all places, and he'd bought it with the intention of selling it on to an interested party. And I was the person he sold, and I just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
Wow, that's amazing.
But yeah, that's a fantastic piece of memorabilia.
So that's it. You're not just a guy who runs Swinton and has been passionate about Swinton, but you're actually passionate about the heritage and the history.
Yeah.
But as we look forward with the club, the foundation is doing some really great work, ranked very, very highly. We've revitalised the match day presentation, going with modern times. The Lionesses, which you've been passionate about from day one, not just this sort of reboot in the last few months, but from day one. What does the future hold for the club?
I think we started planning the future the day after the Hunslet game.
Yeah.
We've been in the Championship for a couple of years. We'd had a right good go at it, I think. I don't think any of us expected to be relegated in the way that we did. I remember standing on the balcony at the end of the Hunslet game, and I know, Jason, that was probably the first game you'd come to.
It was.
From rightly. Yeah. We had the deputy mayor there, and we had a lot of important people there. And I was stood on the balcony watching Hunslet players celebrate at the end of the game. And I thought, I never want to feel like this again.
No.
But I made myself watch it to make sure I understood the impact of what had happened, I think.
Yeah.
Afterwards, obviously, there was a quick change of head coach. I was absolutely, from a sporting perspective, I was absolutely mortified, like the rest of us. 2 days later, we had a board meeting. We sat down together and we started to evaluate what had happened. And it began to occur to me that had we actually won that game, and I know this comment might be misinterpreted in some places, but had we won that game and stayed up, we would have put the club under severe financial pressure this year, and I dread to think how we would have negotiated this season, if I'm being brutally honest.
Yeah. I'm
sure we would have done. We would have found ways and means, as we always do, but it would have put intolerable financial pressure on the club. As it happened, we went down, and we advertised for a new head coach. We met Paul, and we were absolutely blown away, weren't we, Jason? When we met Paul, he just felt like he was a really great fit at the right time. The way he was so passionate, he's so respecting the game, so articulate. We explained the club's situation in terms of our financial pressures. He understood all that. We explained that there wasn't a great deal of money, that we were going to have to more or less start again and start to build a young team.
Yeah.
He was up all over that, which was great. We managed to pretty much half our expenditure on the squad, which was just as well, really, given the state of League One nowadays. Our income from match days has gone down by probably a half, but the number of games we've got has gone down by another half. So even though we've probably saved ourselves the financial pressures of the Championship, we've gone into another financial pressure pot, which is League One. Despite the savings, we've got fewer and fewer people coming through the gates. We're playing fewer and fewer games, and it's just a massive challenge. But I think we're getting the infrastructure right.
Yeah.
We spoke about Paul there. You referenced the Lionesses. I feel we've got to make the club more attractive to sponsors, to investors,
Yeah.
to supporters,
Yeah.
by being seen to be doing the right things.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're doing. And we talk about one club, one vision, and I know in some quarters that gets scoffed at,
Yeah.
but we believe in it. We
Yeah.
truly believe in it, and it's not just a soundbite. And I think we're actually doing what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
We're all you're particularly passionate about the girls' game, Jason, but the rest of the board is as well.
Absolutely.
And you came in and explained your vision for the women's team, and we said, let's go for it.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing is, when I think what you see across rugby league, and I know there are examples of this across the board, that where we get families interested in the sport, and if that's through the women's game, great. Get the mums and the sisters involved. The whole family comes to the game.
Yeah.
Instead of me going with Andy or on my own, walking up to Station Road, we're taking the whole family with us. It's got to be a good thing. So we're really passionate about developing the women's team and seeing where that can take us. And I know we had a bit of a joke earlier that perhaps the Lionesses can get to Wembley, where the Lions haven't been able to for the last 70 or 80 years. Joking apart, but who knows? So I feel we're doing so much right. And the off-field stuff, I spoke about Damien before, and the development work that we're doing through the LEAP program and other programs. We've got Paul embracing all of that side of things. Well, I know Paul Wood does a lot of work for the foundation as well as for the club. There's so much going right with the club at the moment, and I know we're suffering a little bit on the pitch. Perhaps some fans would expect us to go into this league and blow it away. Well, we knew we were never going to do it. We knew we were never going to do that. We knew it was a reset season, and the discussions with Paul are always incredibly positive. We are where we expected to be. No one likes losing. No. I hate to come away from Birmingham on Sunday with a loss, but they probably spent 3 times as much as what we have. So is it a great surprise? The conversation with Paul is let's create the nucleus of a good young team and try and keep those boys together. And work towards the future. And that's a plan. And I think we're only 3 or 4 months into that plan.
Exactly. I've asked everybody who's come on in the den about the fans and about what they mean to the club. You're a super fan, because you've gone from being that fan who collects, who got involved in the administration, now runs the club and now is an owner of the club. But it's a strong fan base. It's a small fan base. But what's your message to the fans?
I think in some respects, I'm in a difficult position because I'm the guy that's grown up on the terraces of Station Road and the various grounds beyond that, and now I'm seen as the bloke who's helping to run the club, the CEO. I just want to assure all the fans that I am a fan first and foremost, and I love this club, and I totally respect all of the fans who are endeavouring to bring something to the club, whether it's buying a season ticket, turning up on match days, buying memorabilia, contributing to Pride the Builder, contributing to the Supporters Trust, volunteering. I have so much respect for all of them. What I've learned in this job is you're not going to please all of the people all the time. There are going to be people out there be desperately disappointed with some of the decisions that we make. What I would say is we're not frightened of making a decision. We will make a decision if we feel it's in the right interest of the club, and we know that decision might upset somebody. You've just got to bear with us, understand that even if the decision is ultimately proved wrong, and when not everyone's going to be right 100% of the time. the decision will have been made with the best interests of the club at heart.
Yeah.
So my message is to the fans is please understand that the people who are running the club love this club. They're passionate about this club.
Yeah.
There's nobody queuing up behind us to take over the club.
No,
and that's not to say with a least worst option either, because there's some very, very talented people within the club running the club.
Yeah.
So I emphasise that point as well. Bear with us, stick with it, because I feel like we're heading in the right direction.
Steve, it's been great chatting to you. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're listening to In the Den or watching In the Den. There'll be another episode coming soon. Thanks to Steve, CEO of the club. Thank you.